Today we're going to be talking about cognitive behavioral therapy for depression, how it works, and why this form of therapy is so effective for managing depression. Hi everyone. Depression is one of the most common mental health conditions and the #1 cause of disability in the world. But how do you treat depression? What are some of the things that we can do to make depression better? In today's video, I'm going to be talking about cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which is one of the most effective treatments for depression. I'm going to be explaining how it works to manage depression symptoms and give you a better understanding of a model or a cognitive behavioral model for how therapy works to address depression. But before I get into that, just a couple of disclaimers to go over. I'm a registered psychologist in the province of British Columbia, Canada, and this video is for informational purposes only. It is not intended as a substitute or replacement for advice from your doctor or mental health professional. Now, with those things out of the way, let's start talking about cognitive behavioral therapy for depression. Now, you may have heard of CBT, but for a lot of people, they don't really know what it is. It's a very popular form of therapy, but for many, they've heard of it, but aren't really sure exactly what CBT is. Now, I've done a previous video discussing some of the characteristics and principles of cognitive behavioral therapy, and so if you want to know more about what CBT is, what it looks like, I encourage you to take a look at that video as well. Now, to understand cognitive behavioral therapy for depression, I want you to think about human experience as consisting of 3 main components: your behaviors, your thoughts, and your emotions. What you do, how you think, and how you feel. And I want you to think about these 3 components as all interconnected, kind of like the 3 sides of a triangle. Now, usually when people come to see me for therapy for depression, they're usually experiencing problems with emotions. I feel depressed, I feel sad, I feel empty. But depression is a lot more than just emotion. Imagine being depressed. What impact does that have on your behavior? If you're feeling depressed, what do you want to do? Maybe stay in bed, not get dressed, don't want to go out and get exercise, don't do the dishes. Well, if I'm behaving in that way, what impact does that have on how I think about myself, my life, my future? Well, I've been lying in bed all day. I've accomplished nothing. It's been a complete waste of a day. I'm contributing nothing to my family. I'm a total loser. Well, if I'm thinking that way, what does that do to how I feel? Well, I probably feel worse. My mood goes down. The emotion side of the triangle gets worse. And now I'm even less motivated and less interested in doing things. Now, this also works the other way around. If I'm feeling depressed, if I'm feeling down and sad and blue, what am I more likely to think about? Well, we know that when people are depressed, they tend to think in more negative ways. What's the point in trying? It's not going to work out anyways. My life's a mess. No one would want to be with me. I'll never succeed at anything I do. We also know that depressed mood makes it harder for people to remember positive memories or successes that they've had in their lives. So when a person's feeling depressed, when they're feeling down, they're much more easily able to access negative memories or thoughts of failures, thoughts of mistakes and regrets that they've had. And so I'm feeling depressed and I'm thinking about all of these negative things. I'm thinking negatively about myself. I'm thinking negatively about my life. I'm thinking negatively about my future. Well, what impact do you think that's going to have on my motivation to do anything? Well, I'm probably not going to feel like doing anything because it won't work out. I won't enjoy it. It'll be really uncomfortable. So I don't engage in anything. And as a result, I'm not getting the rewards of feeling like I'm succeeding. And I'm not getting the rewards, the intrinsic rewards, out of engaging in fun or social activities. So the way of thinking about depression is that it's kind of this series of ongoing negative spirals that just kind of drive mood further and further down. My mood is depressed. I don't feel like doing much. I think negatively about myself. Makes me feel more depressed. My mood is depressed. I think really negatively about myself. I don't do anything as a result. I don't get the rewards out of doing those things. I feel more depressed. So how do we break out of these negative spirals? How do we break out of these cycles? Well, the key is to think about which sides of the triangle you have some control over. What parts of this cycle can you change? Well, can you control emotion? Can you just change feeling depressed? If we could, we would always just choose to be happy. We would just hit the happy button on our arm and just always be happy. And you've probably had well-meaning people in your life tell you, oh, you just need to cheer up. The problem is, if I could just cheer up, I would. We don't have direct control over our emotions. But what about the other sides of the triangle? Can you control your behavior? Suppose I asked you to get up and go for a 5-minute walk. Could you do that? Well, yeah, probably. You do have some control over your behavior. Now, you may not want to. You may not feel like going for a 5-minute walk. But you do have control over being able to do that. Well, what about the thoughts side of the triangle? Well, suppose I asked you to try and think about a situation differently for 5 minutes. Could you do that? Well, it might be a bit more challenging than just mindlessly changing behavior, but we do know that people, to some extent, have an ability to control and change how they think. But what if I asked you to feel happy for 5 minutes? Could you do that? Now, sometimes when I ask my clients this question, they'll say, yeah, I can make myself happy for 5 minutes. And so I ask, okay, well, how would you do that? And usually the response I get is something like, well, I'd think about positive things in my life. I may call a friend. I may look at pictures of happy memories, or happy moments I've had in the past. But notice, that's not directly changing the emotion. It's getting at the emotion by changing behaviors and changing thoughts. Now, imagine the following scenario. I wake up in the morning, but rather than what I've been doing for the last few weeks, which is staying in bed, not getting up, I get out of bed. I get up, I have a shower, I get dressed for the day. And maybe that's all I do in the day. So my thinking would be, and I may say to myself, or the depression may say to me, that I didn't accomplish much today. But then I'd be able to say to myself, well, at least I got up, at least I showered, and at least I got dressed. So by doing those things, maybe I won't feel as down as I would have felt if I'd stayed in bed all day. So notice, making that behavior change changes how I think about my day, and in doing so, it may make me feel even just a little bit better, or a little bit not worse. And that's how cognitive behavioral therapy works for depression. It's about making behavior change and thought change to indirectly get at changing how you feel. Because you can't change your feelings directly, but you can change what you're doing. And you can change how you're thinking. And by changing those things, you can indirectly improve how you feel. Now, I've done a number of videos on how to change behavior and ways of changing thinking in depression, and that's all part of this CBT approach. I'm a CBT therapist, so pretty much everything I'm talking about in these videos is all based in cognitive behavioral therapy. So if you're interested in learning more about CBT techniques and ways of changing behavior and ways of changing thinking to indirectly get at improving how you feel, I encourage you to check out those videos. I've got a depression playlist, so I'd encourage you to check out the depression videos playlist if you want to know more about this. So I hope that gives you a bit more of background on how cognitive behavioral therapy works and how it can break these negative spirals that keep depression going. So that's all for today's video. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments about this, so please leave me some comments or questions in the comments section down below. If you've been enjoying my videos and would like to see more, please hit that subscribe button and notification bell, and you'll be alerted every week when I post a new video. So that's all for today. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.